Welcome everyone to Sunday Sentiments.
Of course, this is a hate crime.
And if she's found guilty, then she has to face the consequences.
They normally end up killing some particular kinds of people.
It's a violation of human rights.
That's a very traumatic event.
So I just wanted to ask the panel about their own opinions on this topic.
Welcome everyone to Sunday Sentiments. We meet every 2 weeks to discuss current topics and issues of interest to us. I would also like to ask anyone watching that hasn't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe, please like, please share, just to support our channel. We're trying to help make it grow. So our topic today is about the vaccine, and after the G7 summit, there was an announcement made which we'll discuss, and I'm going to pass you over to the host, Keshi.
Thank you, Shiko. This discussion actually was interesting to us after we had, on the 5th of June, Denmark announced that they were going to give 358,000 doses of AstraZeneca vaccine to Kenya. And they said that because these vaccines would expire on July 31st, they were due to arrive in Nairobi anytime from that date. That was the 5th of June. And the words that the Danish ambassador said, the statement he made at the donations was something that everyone should be thinking about, every country that has access to these vaccines. And he said that international solidarity is crucial in a pandemic. No one is safe unless everyone is safe. So the first question we'll address or discussion is, how did you all feel or think when you heard of this donation that Denmark was making to Kenya? And we'll start with our Kenyan panelists, Shiro and Maggie. How did you feel when you heard of this announcement?
Personally, I was very happy with the announcement because Kenya had received about 1 million, or slightly over 1 million doses of AstraZeneca, which were given to about 1 million people. So now, after the pandemic escalated in India, COVAX could not get any vaccines from India. So now those who had their first dose, including myself, were not even sure we would get the second dose. It was like we were left in limbo. So our country, when Denmark offered the 358, almost 360, that was a very, very, very good initiative, to be honest. And I'd like to mention that also South Sudan donated some vaccines to Kenya because they knew they would not be able to administer them before the expiry date. So, and Kenya would be able to use them. So right now we have the second doses being given to those who had received the first doses. So I'm very, very happy and grateful to Denmark. We have Danish people from Denmark on our panel, and we are so, so grateful in Kenya for that.
Thank you, Shiro. And then Maggie, how did you feel about this announcement?
It was a great gesture, and thank you so much for the dance. Actually, it's nice, and we hope also others will follow suit, because like you said, if one part of the country is sick, then nobody is safe. So I think they did a good thing, and I would thank you so much for the dance, and I know others also will follow suit. But I know the UK are interested in India, so I don't think if they'll think of us. But thank you, dance.
Yes, yeah. I was impressed as someone who is resident here in Denmark, also a citizen, was impressed that a small country of a population of about 5.5 million Danes, they were offering to give vaccinations to Kenya with a population of 60 million people. So it may seem like a small amount or a drop in the ocean, but when you think about Kenya's vaccination program and how it was told because of people holding vaccines or the crisis in India. This was a fantastic gesture, and by the time of the announcing of this, several countries actually had already donated vaccines, only that it's not been announced. We have Norway had donated about 700,000 corona vaccines to poorer nations, and most of these were AstraZeneca and some were from Pfizer. Portugal had announced it to distribute 5% of its vaccines to its former colonies in Africa. Other countries had made pledges, but we have some countries like Denmark and Norway already not just pledging, but giving these vaccines. So it's a good gesture. Yes, Shiko?
Yeah, I remember when there was all these issues that was being reported about AstraZeneca and governments saying that the European governments saying that they would not be using them and all that. So I was wondering what's going to happen to these. And I remember speaking to Shira, and she said, yeah, if they don't want them, they can give them to us. Something is better than nothing. So when you think that there's some people who don't even have that option of choosing what to go for, yeah, if there's vaccines that can be given away or countries don't want to use them for whatever reason, it's only right that they distribute them to those who who are ready to have them. And it's really out of desperation that people are like, give us the AstraZeneca, we don't care about the blood clots or whatever, because the issue is so bad. It's so bad in these countries, in India, in African countries, that yeah, anything is better than nothing, as Shiro said.
Thank you, Shiko. Anyone else with a comment about this donation from Denmark and other countries like Norway already giving, not part of the pledge, but already having given their excess vaccines of AstraZeneca? Catherine?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Obviously, the AstraZeneca has been very critically received in Europe, and we could talk a long time about if it's the right thing then to say, okay, it's a bit like giving my old clothes to the charity shop and say, okay, take it because I don't want it anymore. But in reality, in the UK, we still vaccinate AstraZeneca, and I think just after the G7 now, we had huge pledges of the Americans, 500 million. The UK has pledged. So theoretically, next year, those countries going to be bombarded with all the leftovers of vaccines, because most countries have over-ordered. They just ordered so much more than the actual population. But we have to make sure that these countries can actually deliver it. So I appreciate Denmark going ahead saying, okay, these vaccines are going to be off very soon. We'd like to give them to Kenya, and then Kenya can build on this. They can practice to how to roll it out. It's one thing to have the vaccines. It's another thing to roll them out. And even countries like Germany, who've gone into all sorts of troubles with bureaucracy and how to book a test and how to go and get the test. So it's important that we don't bombard countries with huge amounts of vaccines, but sort of triggering them in bit by bit, just the same way the Western nation have gotten their vaccines. They had the time to sort of practice and roll out their vaccine program.
Thank you, Catherine. In the case of Kenya, the United Nations organization, I can't remember which one, was going to take care of the logistics, helping Kenya with the logistics of the Danish vaccine. So we have organizations that are helping out, so it won't be chaotic as we would expect. Yeah. And like you say, it's a huge amount of these vaccines being given at the same time. So exactly. Before we hear from Shamsa, I want to share a screen so we can all see how many vaccines the UK, I'm taking an example, has ordered. And then, something to think about as we talk about this issue. So can you see the shared screen?
Yep.
Yeah, these are the millions of doses that the UK has ordered. And I shared this because after Denmark had made this donation to Kenya, and before the G7 meeting, we have the UK Prime Minister urging and saying that we should come together and share vaccines so that there is vaccine equity. And then the BBC had this showing how many vaccines the UK had ordered, and writing that so far they had not given any donation. Remember, this was before the pledge was made. So yeah, thank you. So now we go to Shamsa. What do you have to say about this?
So I would say, whatever the reason is, like Chiku said, but it is very good and pleasant news that Denmark is donating a vaccine to Kenya, because Kenya is in difficult situation as they have received far fewer vaccines than they should have had. So it is very good, and they can fill the gap because Kenya is facing a big gap of vaccine. So it is very pleasant and good news.
Thank you. Yeah, so now we move on to the second part, and that is the G7 countries pledging to give 1 billion vaccine doses out to the world, with America giving the biggest pledge of 500 million vaccines and so on. And these vaccines are not going to be given immediately. I've seen that some of these vaccines will be given next year, and then the rollout will be next year, some this year, most of them next year, and they want to end COVID-19 by 2022. So do you have anything to say about this, all these big pledges made by these big G7 countries? Okay, Rigo wanted to say something.
For me, it was about Denmark donating to Kenya. I think it was a very gracious gesture from Denmark to do that. But Denmark is anyway known for really being there to help the poorer countries. And I think it's really nice. And it's something that we appreciate. As a resident of Denmark, I truly, truly appreciate that, because when you're born in Kenya, you're still a Kenyan, even if you're a resident of Denmark. So on behalf of all Kenyans, we are thanking the Danish people.
Thank you, Kerigo. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It was a big gesture. And that was not just the only help Denmark has given Kenya during the pandemic. They've given, I can't remember how many, 570 million Kenya shillings to boost up the hospitals, grade 3 hospitals in Kenya. So Denmark is not just making a gesture. This is something they've been doing, assisting. And I don't know why particularly Kenya. Maybe they've been helping other countries, and we are highlighting Kenya because we come from Kenya, but it is indeed a good gesture. So now when we move on to this big gesture from the G7 nations, how does everyone feel about this? I think, Catherine, you had something. You mentioned something about the distribution of the vaccines, which was a good point. Catherine, you are muted.
Oh. From all my, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yeah.
From all my research, I mean, I think the target from the World Organization is that we sort of get some sort of vaccination program out, that we vaccinate everyone who wants to be vaccinated by the end of 2022. Those pledges at G7, they're great. Germany has pledged a lot of money, America lots of vaccines, England a lot of vaccines. I'm not surprised, because they all over ordered so much that they know they can give it out, because by now, because they ordered a lot, because at the time when they ordered, they didn't know what vaccine would be working, which one wasn't. They have plenty, they can dish it out. So I'm not so impressed by it, because in the end it's very important, because if we don't vaccinate the world, England has just proven it just doesn't help us if we just vaccinate our own people. I mean, the vaccination program is good. It seems to have sort of broken a little bit the link between infection and hospitalization, but because England didn't close the border early enough for the Indian or the Delta variant, formerly known as the Indian variant, to come in from India, because we kept our borders open in spite of having closed Bangladesh and Pakistan. And now, in spite of having one of the most advanced vaccination programs, we are just debating that we have to extend parts of the lockdown for another 4 weeks. So we know that if the world isn't vaccinated, we can vaccinate as much as we want, but we won't be safe. So it's great that they give it out next year, but of course they can, because they have ordered plenty. They've ordered, most of what's available, and now they're giving it out. I'm not impressed. I think that's what has to happen, and they do it for themselves.
Yeah, thank you. So Catherine, you're not impressed because they over-ordered, and they could have just...
Yep,
but
they could have...
I don't know. Yeah, but when you think about what they've been saying about the duration or how long protection you get from these vaccines, that it's to 6 months. So you can kind of understand why countries were over-ordering, because they thought they have to give booster shots.
Well, no, but
so
also
on.
it was more they ordered the whole variety of vaccines, because when they ordered, we have to keep in mind, none of the vaccines had been approved by the different medication agencies. So they just ordered whatever they could order, and England threw a lot more money at it than maybe the EU or other countries did. So they just happened to secure a lot of the it basically was a gamble at the time. Now we're in a lot safer space. We know which vaccines work, and of course new vaccines will come out which build on the successful vaccines. But at the time they just ordered, and which is fair enough. They're not ordered to over-order. They just didn't know which one of the vaccines they ordered would actually work.
Oh yeah, that's true, Catherine. So Shamsa, did you want to say something, or is that a hand from earlier?
No, I want to say something.
Yeah.
So same as Catherine said, I'm not impressed as well, because the move to be outlined at the start of the 3-day summit is designed to address criticism that Western government have secured the bulk of life-saving COVID-19 vaccines to immune their own population. The move is also an attempt to counter the vaccine diplomacy. So it was, if they want to donate, they should start earlier. But now they want to tackle the criticism outside the world. So same, I'm not impressed. It's kind of, this pandemic, it's kind of selfish game. And the rich countries are, they are not playing, they played their part, and now they are donating the, rest of the vaccines to poorer countries.
Thank you, Shamsa. Actually, I was reading somewhere that some people are saying that one of the reasons they rushed to make this decision at the beginning of this summit was because they are trying to counter, like you said, the Chinese vaccine diplomacy, because China, which is not a member of the G7, has been making donations of vaccines to other countries. So it's like, yeah, let's compete with China. Yes, Kerigo?
Okay, I understand what Catherine and Shamsa are saying, but for me, I feel if you ask the Kenyans, the people who live in Kenya, the people who live in places where they don't have enough vaccines, they will not have the same mindset as you have, and will have the opportunity of asking Shiro and Maggie. People who are pressed and don't have the vaccine in their country don't care the reasons the vaccine is given. They are just happy the vaccine is given. So even if us who live in these countries where we have the enough vaccine, we are not worried. We might say that we are not impressed or whatever, but if you ask the people who need that vaccine or would not have had the possibility of having that vaccine without the help from, for example, Denmark or whatever, they will say, welcome, all of you, bring all your extra vaccines, because beggars are not choosers. You're not looking for the reasons why. You're just happy that they're giving them to you.
Yeah, thank you, Kerigo. That's for sure. That's true. And even with this thing of saying, oh, they're getting the leftovers, they're getting AstraZeneca, like Shiro told us, they really don't care if it's AstraZeneca or whatever side effects people are saying. The most important is that they get vaccine coverage. So they're happy to get those vaccines. Yes, Shiko?
Well, first of all, in response to Kirigo, I get your point. And yeah, we agree that the people receiving the donations don't care. But at the same time, if we didn't criticize and make this, you know, accusations or whatever you want to call it, then actually nothing would be done. They're only moving to action because they've seen the criticism and heard the criticism. So we have to make some noise or they'll not do anything. I mean, vaccines have been getting thrown out in this country in the bin, like just thrown out because they know they've got disposable amounts available. And it's a big shame when we actually read these reports that local CCGs, which is hospital trusts, have not even been directed well on what to do with the vaccines that have been left over at the end of the day. So because there's been no preparation for people on waiting lists and whatever, they are throwing them out. But then they can afford to do it because they ordered, how many, Keshi? Actually, we did a session on this and we found that the UK had ordered 7 times the amount of its population or something ridiculous like that. So there's over ordering and then there's over ordering. It's okay to over order because nobody knew what would happen, but ordering 10 times over your population is, yeah, quite selfish. I also wanted to respond to what Catherine has said earlier, not being impressed. The vaccination program went really well. And then because the borders were open, we got the Delta variant. That in itself proves the point of how important it is to vaccinate the world. Otherwise, you have to close your borders to everyone because you'll have vaccinated yourselves and you're all okay. But because you don't want the risk to get variants in, then you have to close the world to everyone. No man is an island, no country is an island, even though literally we are. We need other people. So we need to vaccinate the world so that we're okay. It's not even rocket science. I don't get it. In a nutshell, I'm glad that finally, whether they've been shamed to do it or they actually decided to do it, I'm glad that it's happening, that they're thinking of vaccinating the world as well.
Yeah, thank you, Shiko. We have organizations like Global Citizen that have they have a movement right now about equitable vaccination or access to vaccines. And there have been a lot of pressure on these big countries and big governments to share in this so that there's equitable distribution of vaccines so that everyone is safe. Yes, Catherine, and then Kerigo.
Yeah, I just like to, because you mentioned Russia and China, because also we're talking about how wonderful it is that people share and agree it's important, but also how we share it and why. And I wish that the COVAX organization or the COVAX program would have been stronger because, of course, like Russia and China, they really went ahead. Like Shiro was saying, we don't care where the vaccine comes from, and we don't care if they've been discarded because they don't want them, because we really need them and they make a huge difference. That's true, but countries will use it to their advantage. And will use it politically. And I wish that wasn't the case, because we know all the efforts that China has already done, especially in Kenya and in other African countries, to build the new Silk Road. So the extraordinary extent of giving the vaccines out, especially in Russia, actually, if you look into the statistics, I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me. They given out a lot of the Sputnik vaccine to other countries, whereas in Russia the vaccination rate is really low because actually the Russians don't trust their own government's vaccine. So you know, while there's one thing of giving it out, and I think that's also why nations of the G7 coming out to say, oh, we give you this and we give you that, because they don't want to stay behind Russia and China. It's just really, I find it very disappointing that it's actually also been used politically. And so if it would have gone through the COVAX system only, maybe we wouldn't even have known where these vaccines would have come from.
Yeah, true. Thank you, Catherine. And Kirigo, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I can also see Shiko and Catherine's point of view, that sometimes also there has to be some pressure for them to give, because who knows, maybe if there was no pressure, none of them would have given the vaccines, they would have thrown them out. And also on the other hand, the way Catherine is saying that they will use them for their own political gain. Yeah, I can see that also happening. So it's like, I don't know how to say this. It's good that the Kenyans are getting it. It's good that there was some pressure. Now I can see the point. On the other hand, I hope they will not exploit that, the fact that they have given those vaccines for free.
Yeah, thank you, Kerigo. Anyone else with something to say? And as you're thinking about what to say, I want to share a screen to show why it's important for this. I don't, if I can find that thing. It was on my, I can't find it, but it was showing the vaccine rollout around the world, just showing how critical the situation is, because that map, it's on BBC. I can't find it. Shiko, maybe you can try and find it. BBC rollout around the world. I can't, it's on my desktop, but I can't share it. I don't know why, but it shows the whole continent of Africa. Very few countries have even given the first vaccine. But if you look at countries that like America and the UK, Europe, those countries have already, they are reddish in that map, showing that a lot of the people have been vaccinated, at least with the first vaccine. So we are really so much behind. And like they are saying, people who are advocating for vaccine equity, no one is safe until all are safe. So people may close borders. Yeah, thank you. There it is. So you can see how far the rollout has gone. A whole continent, very few people have received vaccine. And then we have continents where they are continuing with their vaccine efforts. Of course, people have to focus on their populations, but like Catherine and Shiko are saying, you may do that, but there are variants out there. And if the borders are open and people are traveling, we are not safe. That's how it came all the way from China. So yeah, thank you. Yes, Catherine?
Yeah, and that's exactly the point, because I mean, if you think about where the previous disasters have been, we're talking Ebola, we're talking MERS, we're talking the swine flu, but also malaria. And really, it's been in Asia and in Africa. Before, Europe has been sort of spared of all the big pandemics or the big diseases. And I mean, I think Asia has done a lot and Africa hasn't. And I think it's also something for Africa to go back to the drawing board and say, look, I'm not, as you know from a previous session, I'm not in favor of dropping patents. But I'm in favor for licenses. But I think Africa really needs to start to sort of get into gear and start developing and to be able to produce their own vaccines, because they need it just so desperately, and it's not just COVID.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And I was wondering, Jamila, how do you feel about these vaccines being given to other countries? Just a quick comment so that we can wrap up. Do you have any thoughts about this whole discussion?
I think I do agree with the point that I'm not exactly, jumping for joy of the idea. I do think that it's very dodgy the way they've done it. They waited this long. And that point that Shiko made about them throwing the vaccines away like every day instead of just, a lot of them are from GPs, so they can ring up people who are on the waiting list to tell them there's extra vaccines if you want to pop in today. And if the person says no, or if you send them a message, it's like that's it. It's still better than just throwing like thousands away every day when there's people who actually need them, even in your own country. So yeah, I found it very tedious. It took too long for this whole, finally giving out to the world or whatever, making themselves look like they're gracious, good doers or whatever. But really, it's probably some plan they cooked up to make themselves, I don't know.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. You'll find that you're not the only one with that opinion. Thank you, Jamila. So Shiro, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was going to, I agree a little bit with Kirigo and Catherine, but at the same time, like they said, beggars are not choosers, or it's like handing over someone, your old clothes to someone. But if someone is desperate, really, they don't have a lot of choice. But this shows us the injustices and inequality in the world, because the West is so selfish. All those countries ordered many more vaccines that they needed. Now they will have to give them away because they do have an expiry date. One of the articles that we had said that Canada is the only member of the G7 countries, G7 group of countries, rich countries, that is also going to be a beneficiary of this COVAX program. That shows just how selfish these countries are. Canada is a rich country and wants some of those vaccines. That's so unfair because Canada already has a vaccination program in progress, while most of the countries in Africa haven't even started a vaccination program. And also countries like, the article also says wealthy countries such as New Zealand also want a share of the COVAX vaccines. That is just so selfish. That's just what I think. There's a little you can do about it, but it shows just basically how selfish humans can be.
Yeah, totally agree. I totally agree with you. You also mentioned that these booster shots I had mentioned earlier have an expiry date. So I can foresee a lot of vaccines being thrown out, because how quick can they get them out to people before they expire? The ones that were sent to Kenya already had an expiry date of July. Yeah. So what a waste of resources, what a waste of medicine that could have been this. If this thing had been done earlier, then they are doing it now. Like Jamila saying, they want to show how good as they are. Then maybe we could have avoided this vaccine waste. Yes, Shiko?
Yeah, exactly that. So I'll come back to the UK, where vaccines have been thrown out because there was nothing put in place with what to do with vaccines that were left over from people not showing up on the day. So because they didn't call up people, let's say people who've put themselves on a waiting list, they've had to be thrown out. But if there was some sort of arrangement where anyone who's interested in having it last minute can go in, that means we'd have finished vaccinating even faster to allow for that expiry date to be much further. But because there's just been this complacency, we have enough, we've got 10 times our population, there's been nothing in place. And now the expiry date is coming closer and closer, and they're pushing to distribute them and end up looking like the good guys, where really, I mean, what else is there to do other than just throw them out and even look even worse than they are? So it is. We know it's not done from necessarily 100% unselfish point, but as Shiro has said many times, and Kirigo, the people receiving don't really care as long as they get them before the expiry date. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Thank you, Shiko. We always like to hear from our young panelists. I can see McKenna is here. So McKenna, any last words? You want to close the discussion before we say goodbye this lovely Sunday?
I just have to say I also agree with like what Chico and Jamila were saying, because I remember talking about it a while ago, and I was literally just like astonished to hear that they were just throwing out all these like vaccines. So at the end of the day, I am happy they are giving, like, donating them, but it is like with a bit of a heavy heart, because you know that it's like not just out of a good place. It's because they need to actually just get rid of them, unless they want to look like the bad guys and waste them all, if you know what I mean. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, thank you. That's important too. Yeah, they have to be given out before they expire. And to wrap it up, we'll have Shamsa giving the last comment.
Yeah, just I want to say one last thing, that I was keep monitoring the in the pandemic and lockdown what's going on, and I till from that time till now I realized it was like a hunger game. Whoever will get medicine, he will survive. So rich countries did that. They got so many vaccines, and they thought they will survive. So it was like hunger game, nothing else. It was a selfish game. So they're giving the extra thing, is doesn't matter AstraZeneca, because I'm getting AstraZeneca. I don't mind, but the way they are giving, it's bit dodgy. Yeah.
Thank you, Shamsa. And to close the discussion, COVID-19 is not the last pandemic that will happen. So we hope governments, countries, and organizations have learned a lesson from how vaccines have been distributed around the world. And we hope next time they'll do a better job. And we at Four Wings, we support the equitable distribution of vaccines, and we'll keep doing so until everyone is safe. So thank you for joining us that lovely afternoon. And as usual, we ask you to like, subscribe, and what else? Comment.
Be nice.
And be nice and enjoy your evening. Thank you for joining us, and see you next time. Thanks.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.